talk to Harold the H. No, give me a Harold the H.
Oh, you want it
Peacock.
higher pitched?
Now, he's the Ipswich historian, and he's on about this time every week, about 8:10.
Yes.
And he's very interesting. He's going to tell us about a serial killer in Ipswich back in the 1950s, and they never, ever caught the bludger. So he could be an old man walking around here now, for all we know.
Right.
Not you. You're too young. He'd be probably about 85. Good on you, mate. Keep walking. You know, one leg after the other. It's good for you. And let's talk to Harold the H. Peacock.
Yeah, good morning, Danny. Look, this story contains so many violent deaths that you've probably never heard of.
No.
And the killer is not who you think it is.
No. Well, I hope not. It could be Damien Lee.
No.
But anyway, in July 1949, so we're going back over 70 years,
Yes.
a killer struck in South Ipswich that left, wait for it, 18 dead. Now, this is all true. It's all in the Queensland Times.
What year
Where else
did
would it
that
be?
start?
1949.
Oh, my brother was born that year.
Well, hopefully it's no coincidence, but in January 1951, the killer was responsible for a further 6 deaths in East Ipswich.
Wow.
In March, the killer struck again with more dead at Newtown.
How come we don't know about this bloke?
And in July, there were 14 killed in North Ipswich.
14?
An alleged killer was then gunned down in the streets, but the killing continued.
Oh, so they didn't get the right
No,
bloke.
that's right. They're just gunning down. This
Could
is
have been
like
a woman.
This is cowboy country.
Yes,
back
Wild
then.
Wild West.
Yeah, in May 1952,
Yeah.
the killer struck again with another 14 dead in East Ipswich. Now, it was just carnage. The same.
He's a serial killer with a capital
That's
S.
right, and this is all
E-R-I-A-L.
true. It's all public information.
Wow.
That same month, an Ipswich champion was found killed in Brisbane, and at last, an arrest was made.
Wow.
Now, in almost every case, and this is true, the head had been ripped off and the blood sucked from the bodies. This is all fully documented. And there was no other mutilation.
What
It was
about-
the weirdest thing.
I've got to give a warning to the children. This is a true story.
It is a true story. But the fact that the victims had all been ducks and chickens makes no difference to the sheer brutality of the insane killing spree that was taking place all over Ipswich. And it was making headlines in the paper virtually every week. Now, before the arrest, theories spread about who or what may be the culprit.
Right.
Now, Arthur Corlett, he was a train collector living in Jake Street off Salisbury Road in South Ipswich.
Right.
Corlett suffered 15 dead fowls and 3 dead ducks.
Ah.
And he thought the killer was either a fox or a dog.
Right.
John Lobley, he was secretary of the Bouvale Stars Soccer Club.
Right.
He lost 8 chickens
Holy.
and believed that a wildcat was responsible. Others believe that the murderer was a lone dog. A resident of Frederick Street in East Ipswich described the killer as about the size of a fox terrier with a bushy tail.
Right.
Now, no one could be sure. The only thing that was certain was that the blood had been sucked from the bodies as if it was a vampire-style maniac. Now, this is all true.
Holy flaming hell.
There were 14 fowls that were killed in one night at the back of 2 houses on Musgrave Street in North Ipswich. 10 of the chickens belonged to Joseph Weir, and he himself was dead within 12 months.
Holy hell.
His neighbour was William Bryce.
Right.
He previously had his milkman charged with arson when the milkman set fire to his house after delivering the milk. But on this occasion, Bryce owned 4 of the dead birds. Now, it was reported the next morning that Bryce's son, Ian Bryce, and hello to Ian if he's listening now, that Ian had shot the killer dead to end the rampage. Now, he'd actually shot a fox, and afterwards it was skinned and the pelt stretched out to dry.
Right.
But even after that, Danny, the Ipswich killings continued.
Right.
A widow, Mrs. Anna Lee of Tongue Street, East Ipswich, was the next victim. She had 1 duck and 13 chooks.
Right.
And a further 4 reported missing, never recovered.
Oh.
Then the body of a brown leghorn cockerel. Now, that bird had just won first prize at the Ipswich show.
Oh.
It was found partially covered at the Roma Street station in Brisbane. Now, this is true. CIB detectives were dispatched to the scene. Absolutely genuine. A 19-year-old soldier, Morris Hennessy, was arrested, as he waited for the train back here to Ipswich to the Waco Army Camp.
Right.
He was subsequently fined £5 and ordered to pay £5, 5 shillings restitution. But despite that conviction and the earlier shooting and skinning of an alleged killer, the real Ipswich mass murderer was never truly identified. But the most likely explanation came from a Mrs. Una Elliott from Laidley. Now, she said that without doubt, now this is interesting because this is history and we're talking extinction here, without doubt it was a native cat, which is a spotted-tailed quoll.
Can't stand cats.
Now, a quoll, it's a medium-sized carnivorous marsupial, and today quolls are endangered across Queensland and extinct in a lot of parts, including here in Ipswich. They don't exist here anymore.
What aren't they? What are they?
A quoll, a spotted-tailed quoll. It's a carnivorous marsupial.
Holy snapping round your dog lads.
And it was responsible for hundreds of deaths here in Ipswich. And Mrs. Elliott, she explained that foxes take the fowl away to eat, but the quoll just sucks the blood and leaves the body behind. And she described quolls as lean animals with a brushed tail. So Mrs. Elliott had it right, because this description fits perfectly the evidence that was gathered throughout Ipswich's mass killing spree of 70 years ago.
A serial killer was an animal.
It was a quoll.
A quoll? I thought it was a person. I thought, how come we haven't heard about this person? You know?
Well, it wasn't your brother anyway, because he was born when it all started.
1949, but now you got some great stories on history out there, the website. So and the Facebook post, isn't it? So
that's right. Go to online to historyouthere.com. Yeah. These stories are posted every Sunday morning, and there's about 125 on Ipswich. The whole of Ipswich stories, including this mass murderer back in the day.
Unbelievable stories. You got to read about it, particularly if you're an Ipswichite. But they're all interesting stories. Historyouthere.com. Historyouthere.com with Harold the H. Peacock. He's the man that knows all about history in Ipswich. Right here at... What's the time? 8:22 on West Brimmer Radio. We're live at Tulma Place. Come and say hey-de-doody, every booty.